Hey, Brianna, thank you so much for coming back. I know that last week we got to know each other a little bit. We talked about confidentiality, and it sounds like one of the things that's really on your mind has to do with drinking. Could
Mhm.
you just tell me a little bit about kind of where you are about that?
Yeah, so I'm about to graduate high school, and it's kind of a time where everybody's having a lot of parties and stuff, and I want to be able to go to them, and I want to drink like everybody else is, but my parents aren't exactly thrilled about that.
Mhm. So when you say not exactly thrilled, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, they don't want me to drink at all.
Mhm.
I'm underage. I'm 18. Um, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. Everybody else is doing it, so why does it matter if I do?
So when you say it's not big of a deal, what do you think are some of the consequences of drinking?
Well, I know it's not great for your body, but I'm really young, so I feel like that's not something I have to worry about yet. And I know it's illegal, but everybody's doing it.
Mhm. So it sounds like a lot of your friends are doing this. Or do you have any friends that aren't part of this scene?
Um, Maybe like one or two people, but I'm not really close with them. I would say most of my good friends are doing the same thing.
So would you say that you're interested in, kind of continuing this conversation about drinking? Because it sounds like your parents are the ones kind of pushing it. And I just want to make sure that you're okay with talking about it.
Yeah, we can talk about it. I don't, that's not going to hurt anything.
Okay. All right. As long as you're okay with it. So, and if, so since that's okay, I really want to go a little bit deeper about this.
Okay.
So, could you just kind of tell me about drinking and how that kind of fits into your life? Like in a typical week, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I would say most Fridays and Saturdays I'm going to parties, and either drinking or sometimes maybe smoking pot.
Okay.
That doesn't happen as often, but I would say almost every Friday and Saturday.
Mhm.
Um,
So, I'm just curious, how often does like smoking pot factor in when you go out?
mm, I would say not every weekend, but probably every other weekend.
Okay. And the drinking, would that be every weekend?
Yeah.
Okay. So, can you kind of estimate, you go out to a party, I'm assuming you're there for a couple hours. How many drinks do you have?
Um, I mean, I always take a couple shots,
And so when you say a shot, like,
so probably more, and then I in a shot glass.
okay, okay. And then, I'm sorry,
Um,
what'd you say after that?
so I usually take a few shots, and then I'll also sometimes have a, a few mixed drinks or beers or something.
Hmm. Do you know, are you the one making those drinks?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Just because, you never know kind of
Mhm.
what people could put in that. Um,
I'm always make my own.
okay. So I just wanted to share with you some information from the National Institute of Health. And so in terms of being a low risk drinker, kind of minimizing the health effects that you have, we're talking about for women of your age, no more than 3 drinks a day, 7 drinks a week. And it sounds like you have a couple shots, you have a couple mixed drinks, you might be hitting 6 or 7 drinks a day. It sounds like.
Hmm.
So maybe you twice the weekly average right now.
Yeah, probably.
And I just wanted to let you know that that level of drinking puts you in what we call the harmful category. And so I don't want you to get freaked out, but that's 10% of the population who's drinking, more than what's recommended or what's sort of healthy. And the
Mhm.
reason that it's called harmful is, and we're not talking about like, oh, it's like morally wrong that to drink is like it's evil. It's not that kind of conversation. We're talking about health effects. So
Okay.
the thing is, drinking can have a lot of negative effects on your health, especially for someone at such a young age. Because, and we can talk about marijuana too if you want to, but both of those things affect how the brain develops. And as you may know, for an adult, your brain isn't finished developing until you're in your 20s. And as a consequence, there can be a lot of negative impacts to both drinking and using marijuana. And the thing is, I know from what you said before, you're going off to college, so you're going to be needing that brain, obviously. And I just kind of want to make you aware that you may not function at kind of the level you're used to if you kind of continue with drinking and using pot at the frequency that you are. And
Yeah.
another piece of this, aside from effects on the brain, is effects on your mood. And I don't know if you've noticed it all, but a lot of research suggests that people who drink and who use marijuana or are more prone to have sort of mood swings or suffer more frequently from depression and kind of having a lower mood than people who don't use those substances. And just from the amount that you're talking about that you're drinking every week, I just kind of wanted to make you aware that that's another kind of big concern that
Hmm.
might come up. Like you might wake up on Monday and just be really down. And it I know that a lot of people drink to sort of have a good time, and it sort of helps a lot of people be social, but it can also have a lot of negative effects on your mood, especially kind of combining that with marijuana use. Um, and just to make you aware, there are a lot of other negative health effects in terms of the effect of alcohol on your heart and the effect of alcohol on your liver. And I'm not saying that like drinking one day is going to have these like long-term negative consequences, but if you get in the habit of it, it it is going to start affecting how your body functions, and it's going to make it harder for you to sort of bounce back from drinking, to sort of showing up at work the next day, and you could have the development of a lot of chronic illnesses. So there are some kind of long-term pieces to it that I just kind of wanted to make you aware of. And there's also some short-term pieces that I know, I'm sure in your school you've had to hear all kind of presentations like don't drink and drive and that kind of thing. And I just want you to know that a lot of times people who are using the substances you're talking about just kind of run into a lot of these events, in terms of DUI, in terms of, crashing, in terms of getting into dangerous and kind of more risky situations. So I just kind of wanted to make you aware there are some long-term
Mm.
consequences about drinking, and there are some short-term consequences too. And again, no one here is saying like, oh, you drink, you're a bad person. That's not at all kind of what's going on. I just want you to know that 75% of the people in this country are able to drink at a level that kind of conforms to what I told you before about less than 7 drinks a week, and they're in kind of what we call the low risk group. And I just want you to know that your level of drinking can have some really serious consequences.
Yeah, and I know that like all of that's true. We get taught about it in school and stuff, but I feel like I just don't. I feel like everybody starts drinking when they're young. So why is it a big deal that I do? Like I know my parents started drinking before they turned 21. So how is it any different than that?
So it sounds like you're kind of following in your parents' footsteps there.
Well, it's not necessarily that. It's just I just don't get why it's a big deal if I do it if I know that like so do most people.
Hmm.
I don't feel like that many people wait till they're 21 to start drinking.
Right. And I guess I'm not a police officer. I'm not trying to tell you about what the law is, but I think there's a big difference between drinking and drinking a lot. And I think that, you say most people do this or most people do that. I mean, you're in the 10%. And this isn't a good 10% to be in, because this is the 10% who are drinking at a level that can be harmful to their body. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, most people aren't doing that. And I know that it might seem kind of from your friends and everything else that like this is something that everyone does. And again, I'm not saying don't go to parties, don't drink ever. I think kind of what we need to look at is how much you're drinking and the negative effects that this could have for you for the rest of your life, especially kind of combining that with marijuana at the stage of development that you are right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's hard if everybody's going to be doing it. I still want to be able to go to those parties and hang out with everybody. And I just don't think that's something I'm going to do if I'm not also drinking with them. And it's not like anybody makes you or like is forcing me to do it. It's something I'm choosing to do. But also it is fun. And I don't want to have to give that up.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I can understand sort of where that's coming from. And I mean, of course, you want to have fun. I mean, you're a senior in high school. That's sort of what's going on in your social scene. I do kind of want to hear though, like when you say it's fun, I mean, what do you like about your, drinking and smoking pot? Like, what appeals to you?
I mean, it's something that we're all doing together, and we're playing games and dancing and listening to music, and just everybody is having a good time.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like the community element is important, that you get to do this with your friends.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I worked so hard throughout all of high school to get good grades and make sure I would get into college and stuff like that. And now I feel like I was able to accomplish that. What's the big deal with having fun instead of staying in and doing homework on Fridays and Saturdays like I used to always do?
So you had goals in high school. I mean, and it sounds like those had to do with your grades. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about where you see yourself going?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm starting college in the fall, and I got accepted into a good school, and I have scholarships and stuff. Um, so I mean, school is still something I'm going to do, and I don't think that this changes that.
No, absolutely. And so it sounds like you've got this community element, and that's kind of a big reason that contributes to your drinking. Is there anything that you don't like? I mean, what do you like the least about drinking and smoking pot?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes some people, not as much my friends, but like the other people were around, like they start acting stupid, or there'll be people who get too drunk and like get in fights or dumb stuff like that. But it's not usually something that happens to me. But I'm seeing it happen to other people, and I don't know. I think that's kind of dumb.
So it sounds like you maybe enjoy drinking yourself, but you don't like seeing the effects in other people too much.
Well, yeah, and it's when they're too drunk or they're like get really violent, or like throwing up in the bathroom the whole night. But I don't. That doesn't happen to me. But I don't want to see that happen to other people either.
Yeah. No, I can understand. Have you ever had any kind of difficult experiences connected with your friends in drinking? Because it sounds like it's mostly people that you don't know that well, but has that ever happened where, you've had to kind of deal with some negative consequences?
Yeah, I mean, I've had to take care of friends who were puking every once in a while, but that's what you do for your friends. And then, like, it's just a short amount of time, and then everything works out.
No, I can see that. I mean, it sounds like you're definitely a good friend. And I don't know, it's interesting to me to hear that obviously it's not fun to take care of people who are puking and having all of these negative, consequences. But it's at the same time, it's sort of so much part of the social scene. It's so like accepted, even though there are some repercussions.
Yeah, and I think, that's a good point. It is something that happens regularly. Not necessarily like in my group, but it's something that's happening at a lot of the parties I go to. But I guess when you're having a good time, I don't think about it as much.
Right. Easier to kind of look back the next day than when you're in the moment.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something you said earlier about college and scholarships. So it sounds like you had to do a lot of work, a lot of studying, a lot of, as you said, sort of staying in on those Fridays and Saturdays to make that happen. I was wondering, why is that so important to you? Why was that worth all the effort?
I've always really liked school, and I really like learning, and it's something that has always been important to me. And I think, I mean, it was important to my parents too, and I guess maybe I learned that from them. But I always have wanted to do really well.
What are some of the things that have been things you've had to overcome to do well in high school?
I mean, it's you kind of, I've taken a lot of classes that are more difficult than some people take, like being an honors student and AP courses and things like that. And they're really difficult and it's way more time consuming. I think it takes up a lot of my time compared to what I noticed some other students were dealing with. And so, I mean, it can be really stressful. And I think that I spend a lot of time being more anxious and stressed out about school than some people do. But I mean, it allows me to go to college. So,
Hmm. I guess I wonder if having this, dream, having this goal, it sounds like it's something that's been so important to you for a number of years. I guess I wonder, how do you think your motivations are going to play out when you're in college? I mean, what do you think your goal is going to be there?
I mean, I want to be able to get a degree, and I want to be able to graduate and still, you know, get really good grades, so that I can get a job that I like. Um, I don't really know how drinking would affect that.
So you mentioned not being sure how drinking is going to affect your future plans. And I guess I'm wondering, how do you think you'll be able to balance sort of social life and wanting to connect with people, something that seems so important to you this year,
Mhm.
versus sort of freshman, sophomore, senior year Brianna, which was all about the grades, trying to be the best student you can be, and kind of maximizing that and maybe more minimizing the social side.
Yeah.
How do you think you can bring those things into balance?
Well, and I think it'll be different because this is like all me and all my friends are going off to different schools, and so this is like our last like couple of months together. So we wanted to go out and have a fun time and do all of that. And I mean, they're not going to be at school with me, so I feel like I'll have more time to focus on school rather than like going to parties and stuff every weekend.
Could you see yourself making new friends and, I don't know, joining a sorority or different groups that kind of connect people?
Yeah, I mean, I know I'll make friends in college, but I think it'll be different because it won't be like we're all about to leave.
Hmm. So it sounds like you've got some pressure to be drinking and smoking pot and sort of doing what your friends are doing right now, because every weekend this could be the last time you see this group or these people who go to that school or whatever.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think that maybe that plays a role in it. I don't necessarily like feel pressure. I don't know if that's what I would say. And maybe that is kind of how it might look. But I mean, I'm choosing to do this. It's not like my friends are making me or telling me I have to,
Hmm.
but it is something I guess that everybody's doing. So I'm doing it too.
Well, on the one hand, it sounds like you get so much life out of being with your friends, aside from the helping people throwing up in the bathroom. It sounds like you get a lot of life out of these experiences. And on the other hand, I mean, it sounds like you don't like the idea of kind of all your hard work going away, or losing that side of yourself, the part of you that knows you can put in the late hours and get the best grades.
Yeah, and I mean, I could still do that if I had to. It's just the way like my classes felt like this semester isn't that bad.
Mhm.
So I don't really have to devote as much time, but I feel like if I did, I would still be able to do it.
So are you worried about your grades kind of dropping this semester at all?
Um, I mean, I think they've gone down a little bit, but they're classes that don't matter as much to me. So I guess it just doesn't seem as important.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, they're probably not as good as the rest of my grades throughout high school were.
Well, I guess I just see kind of a discrepancy here, like just a real change in your personality from sort of being the type A kind of go-getter, achieve your goals, to now kind of being kind of laid back. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with spending time with your friends, but I do want you to know that colleges are going to look at your transcript, they are going to look at your disciplinary records, and certainly if you ever get arrested, um, especially if it's something really serious like a DUI,
Mhm.
you know, that information kind of could come back to you in terms of employment, in terms of scholarships, because you're an adult now, and if anything happens, it's not like, well, you can kind of go through the juvenile process, and you might face some really serious consequences, and I would hope that you can kind of be protective of the work that you've done. um,
Yeah.
I guess I just worry that going forward, if we can't kind of balance out what you're doing on the weekends versus your obligations, there might be some consequences.
Yeah. And I guess I never really thought of it that way. I feel like you get accepted into school, you figure out like, oh, I've got a full ride. It doesn't seem like it matters as much. But I guess, I mean, that is true. Like if something were to happen, I guess the school could figure out about it. And obviously I don't want that to happen.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, especially it would be terrible, to watch all the hard work kind of go to waste.
Yeah, because I'm really proud of like what I've done throughout school, and I don't want that to just disappear because I like to drink on the weekends.
Yeah, and well, let me kind of just recap a couple of things that we've talked about. I mean, sounds like you have a lot of goals for your life. There's a lot of things you want to achieve. At the same time, you kind of like to blow off steam, and you like to be with your friends, and a lot of that time is spent, drinking and smoking marijuana. Um, and some of the things I shared with you in terms of health effects, you know, consuming these substances in the quantity that you are could end up affecting your memory, end up affecting your recall, kind of the way that you think and the way that you function, and also have some long-term effects in your health, as well as some short-term really negative consequences if you overindulge, and things like that. So that being said, it sounds like you're also aware that the last semester of high school does matter, and that there could be consequences if you were to get a bad grade, or if you were to get some charges or something that your college were to find out about. So I guess right now you're in kind of the danger zone with drinking. And so on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not at all, 10 being, you know, let's go, let's do this, how ready do you feel to make a change in your drinking and your smoking pot?
I think it would depend on what the change is. Like if it's to completely stop drinking, I don't want to do that. But maybe like changing how much I'm drinking, I could say I'm about like a 5 or 6.
Okay, so a 5 or a 6. Why a 6 and not like a 2? Because it sounds like you want to change. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I do want to be able to go to college in the fall, and I don't want that to get jeopardized by what I'm doing now. So I guess school is important to me, and I guess I know I should make that more of a priority, maybe.
Can you tell me more about what school as a priority would look like in your life second semester senior year?
Yeah, I think maybe not drinking as much as I do on the weekends, because obviously when you drink Friday and Saturday night, by Sunday, it's not like I want to be waking up at 7 a.m. to work on homework. I want to sleep and stuff like that. So maybe if I'm not drinking as much, I'll have more time to do homework and be more focused on school and getting everything done.
So, what's a step you think you could take to cut back?
Um, I think it's harder. I mean, with like hangovers and things like that, I definitely think like that's happening a lot more when I'm drinking like vodka or something than if I were to just drink like beer, maybe.
Mhm.
So maybe changing what I'm drinking with that.
Okay. So, sounds like instead of shots, mixed drinks, maybe you want to switch to just having a couple of beers.
I mean, yeah, I think that is much more realistic than me not drinking at all. But I also think that it would probably be better for me getting stuff done and being productive.
Yeah. Okay. Where does marijuana fit into that?
I feel like I'm just not doing it that frequently, so it doesn't seem like as big of a deal to me. Um, but maybe not doing that at all, because I mean, it's something I was trying out, but it's not something that like all of my friends are doing and that I enjoy as much.
Okay. So, I guess I am wondering kind of before you sort of got into where you are right now, with sort of hanging out all the time and drinking and smoking pot, how were things better in terms of school for you?
I was definitely less tired. Um, I was able to like get more sleep on the weekends because I do stay up late doing homework on school nights, and that's not something I can really avoid. So weekends were nice to be able to um, catch up on sleep. But I also had time on the weekends to like do some homework too, whereas now I don't really have as much because I'm either with my friends or I'm like have a headache or I'm sleeping all day.
Well, it sounds like the new plan of switching to beer would hopefully decrease those hangovers and give you more time, especially on Sundays, to kind of get done what you need to get done.
Yeah.
Cool. So, so we're talking about kind of letting the marijuana go and changing from hard liquor to beer on the same scale, 1 to 10, 1 being you're not going to do it, 10 being you're prepared to make those changes. Kind of how likely do you think you are to make that change?
I would say I'm at least at like a 7. I think I'll definitely be able to do that. Um, I don't see, yeah, that being too big of an issue.
What do you think are some steps you could take to sort of get ready to drink beer instead of hard liquor?
I mean, I think just like letting my friends know, like I'm trying not to drink as much, because then like they might be able to remind me of that, like if I'm like getting caught up in the party. So that might be helpful. And then also just like slowly taking my time cutting back rather than just stopping
Mhm.
drinking all at once. I think that it's a good step to start drinking less.
Well, here's a question. What if you go to a party and there's no beer?
I don't really know what I would do.
So,
Um,
I mean, maybe what's something you could do to kind of be ready in a situation like that?
I guess it's just kind of understanding that maybe that's a night I don't drink. I can be designated driver that night.
Be comfortable kind of volunteering to be the designated driver in a situation like that?
Yeah, I mean, we take turns anyway, so it's not so because we try like we don't like to drink and drive.
Right.
Um, so I think that that would be pretty easy to do.
Okay. So we're kind of moving from drinking Friday, Saturday, smoking pot every now and then to switching to just beer, maybe drinking less, and volunteering to be designated driver kind of maybe more frequently than before.
Yeah,
Does that sound like realistic to you?
yeah, I think it does. I didn't really want to like quit drinking altogether because like it is fun, but I think doing it less isn't gonna be a bad thing. Um, it might be nice to have more time on the weekends.
Yeah, great. And it sounds like you maybe can have the best of both worlds. You can have the time you want with your friends, and you can still, have that time for school so you can finish strong and not lose all the hard work you've put in.
Yeah, I think that that'll be a good plan.
Great. Well, I want to say, I know that there's just a lot of peer pressure, especially in high school. Like we've all been there. And I really want to commend you just on having the courage to change and to take a step that maybe isn't going to be super popular with your friends. So I want to say that you're really courageous.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I know that this is only our second meeting, but I know that the weekend's coming up, and I'd really like to just chat again, same time next week,
Hmm.
and just to kind of talk about how the weekend went.
Yeah,
And it's not, although obviously we're talking about grades, there's no like therapy report card. I just want to make sure that you're doing okay.
yeah, we can definitely talk about it when we meet, and
Great.
I'll let you know how I did.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming by, Brianna.
Thank you.